The most valuable part of an iPhone is not the parts and pieces. It's all the IP. But when a company doesn't value their IP, they're kind of like, let's go in as pirates and take everything.
So tell the audience a little bit about Easy IP. You're combining crazy, fast-growing blockchain. Tell us a little bit about that.
Honestly, blockchain, here all it is really simple. It's a ledger. So a ledger is just where you keep track of transactions. It's a ledger that's global. It's public. It's digital, and it's distributed. So if we just unpack that for a moment, Chase Bank has a ledger. It's called debits, credits. Did I spend money? Did I take out money? But it's private and nobody can see it. And nobody can see it except for me with incredible passwords and this type of thing. So if Chase wants to make a mistake, I got to catch it. And I have to somehow find it. And the beauty of blockchain is that everybody can see every transaction. So essentially, if a transaction is made, it's not private. Everyone can see it. And then the next block is created, and the next block is created, and the next block is created. So if you go back 4 blocks and you say, oh, let's change the details, the whole world says you can't do it because that blockchain ledger is now on every device on the planet. And so they can basically catch the error. So what it does is it essentially, I mean, that's just one example. The other example is it tracks back in history. So for example, I'm just going to give you real practical things. Chipotle, which is a restaurant here in the States. Have you ever eaten Chipotle?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay. So Chipotle, because I know you're like the international traveler. So I don't know if they have that type of low quality food where you go. Right? But Chipotle had a food contamination a few years ago. And they're like, oh my gosh, people are getting sick. Well, where is the source? And they dug and they dug and they dug. And they're like, oh, hold on. We got to shut down every restaurant. And we got to shut down every restaurant for months because we cannot trace back to where the contamination happened. It turned out many months later, it was an Australian beef farm that, let's just say, took 8 months to figure out. So you can imagine the millions of dollars lost of sales, jobs, supply chain, all kinds of stuff. Instead, if everybody involved in Chipotle food would have just been part of what's called a blockchain, where essentially, here's my lettuce, boom, I'm putting it on the blockchain ledger. Here's my tomatoes, here's the corn. You could essentially bring all these vendors together on the Chipotle blockchain, and it could have gone right back and said, that's exactly where the contamination happened. So 8 months to 8 seconds. That's one example. Another example is blockchain, where a community basically said, look, we're sick of potholes. We don't want to keep killing our car tires. Let's just decide together that we're all going to, it's called a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. All it means is that it's a community run by certain rules. They've all said, look, we're going to put our taxes into the pool because we live in a city. And guess what? Every time we run over that pothole on our car, we're just going to press a button. And when we press that button, guess what? It tells, because of blockchain technology, it tells the asphalt people, because right when I press the button, it shows in my GPS. And it tells the asphalt people, go dispatch and fix that pothole. It all happens frictionless. See, these are examples. A lot of times people think blockchain is this hype thing that's not practical. So what I did when I started to study blockchain, you know me, I'm in publishing. So I have, all kinds of our books around here that we've written and stuff. I see the world through intellectual property because you and I both hang out with Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach. So he's helped me think that really books are IP. Well, I started to look at IP and I'm like, well, how do you protect IP? And I'll tell you what, Evan, you know and I know, there's a lot of friction. Today, if you were to say, look, I want to trademark this name for golf. Okay. The moment I file that, so like the moment, I file that, it's going to take literally on the USPTO today, 14 months for them to get in line where they can assign a person to actually see and say, you know what? Okay, Kary thought of that. So let's put our flag in the sand and say that date and time he thought of it. Well, I thought that's crazy. And then patents are even worse. Patents are around $20,000 to $30,000 and take between 1 to 3 years. And I know because Easy IP is a patent now. Okay, so I'm not against patents. But patents are like, think of IP protection as a fence. Okay, so when Evan has a business called Teammate AI, essentially that's a property, and he has now a yard, and it's called Teammate AI, and he has tools all in his yard. But if he has no fence around it, anyone can come in and be like, "Oh, sweet, we'll put our name on that. Oh, cool, we'll start charging money for that process, that chart, that graph, that thinking tool. We'll just take it all." Well, when you do that in a society where there's no IP protection, people stop creating. They're just like, forget it. Why would I take the risk and time when I create things and everyone can just steal it? And so what happens is that you need a fence around your property. A patent is not a bad fence, but a patent is like the wall of China that takes a lot of time and a lot of money. But what if you could just put around that property a little electric fence? And what if you could put up that electric fence in less than 24 hours? So now when people walk by the property, there's a sign that says, electric fence, guard dog, do not enter. And now when they walk by, they're like, I'm not going to go in there. So what you've done is you've essentially created a layer of protection. We call it a first layer and a fast layer. But here's the genius. When you take an idea and you put it on the blockchain, it creates a timestamp, a smart contract. And what it does is it takes that idea and turns it into an asset, albeit a digital asset. But here's the beauty of that. It timestamps it, and forever and ever and ever, nobody in the world can say, I thought of that first. Because on everyone's device, on everything, tablet, computer, phone, we can go right to the smart contract and say, whoa, Evan came up with that idea on February 15th, 2024, 3:51 and 49 seconds. And that's what all IP is based on. First use, first file, first in market. Like Easy IP ticks them all off. And if somebody says, I got a patent, I beat you, I came there first. There's this thing called prior art, where when a patent is being, applied for, they say, is there any prior art in the world on this? And a smart contract is prior art.
So if I was to apply for a patent for an idea that I think is novel, but you have a smart contract on Easy IP for a similar enough idea, or for that exact same idea, it's not that you have a patent, but it's that I cannot get that patent. Is that correct?
It's that you've created prior art, and now the patent attorney has to basically say, well, crap, are we going to go to war? Is it worth the risk of us actually going to court? And the lawyer might say, heck yeah, because why? They get paid for time and money. They get paid for time. But you as the client are going to say, no, it's not. Here's the beauty of this. It's not like a Post-it note where you wrote your idea on a Post-it note and you're like, hey, I wrote this back in 1980. You got to believe me. That there used to be something called the poor man's copyright, where, I don't know, you're way too young to realize this, but back in the day, you would have an invention, mail it to yourself, get a stamp, get a date on the literal stamp. And then you would hold that letter and put it in your desk and say, well, if I ever need to open it, I can prove. Well, that way is jacked up. I mean, that way is, first of all, is it a real letter? Is it a real stamp? Did you lose the stamp? Think about blockchain. Blockchain is, you can never lose it. Everybody in the world can see it at every moment. And you literally can't change the date, even if you tried, because that is time stamped. And then the blockchain kept moving on. So it's a big name. It's a name that's used for God. It's called immutable. I mean, if you study theology, which I did, there's a term where God is immutable, unchanging. That's the same word that is used for blockchain. Now, I'm not saying blockchain's God, but I'm saying it's literally called immutable smart contract. So, I mean, that's the power of what we're talking about.
So recently you decided to start building an app around it. You decided that, hey, we want to make this an interface. We want to make this something that people can use, sign up, like sort of a point and shoot with your camera. What was the thinking around that? What was the thinking around, hey, we need this to be in people's pockets? What have you learned? What have you gotten so far?
We call it, I mean, here was my dream, smartphone to smart contract, which, by the way, we did protect that. That's how crazy this thing is, man. And I'll show you that here. I'll show you the smart contract here. But even that term, smartphone to smart contract, I'm like, ooh, that's hot. That's hot. Well, if I would have had to go to USPTO, man, they say it's only $250 application or whatever. It's not. By the time you pay lawyer fees, you're looking at around $3K. $3K to protect the phrase. Okay. Now, I'm not opposed to lawyers. I love my lawyers. Caldwell, oh my gosh, they're amazing. In fact, Katie and I are co-authoring a book together. I love Caldwell. But the point is, like, sometimes you need, like, did I trademark Easy IP? Absolutely. Did I trademark Igniting Souls? Absolutely. I'm not opposed to, like, the big nuclear weapons when you need them. But here's the thing, you and me, we have so many ideas every day. I mean, I'm here teaching entrepreneurship today. People are coming in my room and they're like, I got an idea for something. Well, that young student doesn't have $30K and 3 years. I mean, they'll be out in the workforce by then. But what we've been able to do is immediately say, let's get it on Easy IP. You open your phone, you literally take a picture, you enter text, or you text in file, text, and then all of a sudden you're protected. So the beauty of this, why we did it, is because we were headed to Abundance and CoachCon and London Blockchain Conference. And I knew that this spring, when I share this idea, people either get it or they don't. My job's not to convince anybody. I literally have some people at Abundance who walked by and I told them that and they're like, I don't get it. Or maybe they said, that's stupid, or how do you defend it? And this type of thing. I got other people, you know their names. I could tell you their names, man. Here it is, by the way. Smartphone to smart contract. You see that?
Love it.
Boom. So, I thought of that idea and I'm like, ooh, that's good. That's good. So, that phrase now is a smart contract and it's time stamped and nobody can say, oh, we got that. I can go back and be like, do you want to go to war? But the point is this, other people, man, they get it so fast. We had one person, he's a really big author, and I'll tell you offline who he is. But he's like, I'm interested, but I got to ask you a few questions. And then he started to ask questions, and he said, well, is that a first use case in commerce? And I said, absolutely, watch this. And I showed him the blockchain, and I showed him how it's not listed for sale, but with one button, it says buy, And he's like, oh my gosh, I'm in. He said, I'm signing up right now. I'm going with you. Because he knows that if he has 100 ideas and he's paying $30K, I think that's $3 million. If he has 100 ideas and he goes to Easy IP, he's getting that protected for pocket change comparatively. Now, from those 300 ideas, he can say, oh, this 2, I want to go do a patent. And I really want to take the world by storm with these 2. But everything else is a first layer, fast layer protected.
So you just turned it into an app. Now I can use my phone. I can point and shoot wherever I want. I can get my IP. I'm at dinner. I write something on a napkin. I can turn that into an IP. Tell me a little bit about what that process is like when you're using the app. So what is the process? And, in terms of the tech that you're using, the tech that we're working on together, what was it beforehand?
Yeah.
What is it now? So how is that?
So first of all, the tech is amazing because I came to your team and listen, I did due diligence. I came to 2 people. You probably know the other guy. And I went to the other guy and I'm like, hey, listen, I'm gonna go to you and I'm gonna go to Evan and I'm just gonna ask questions because I feel like there's way too much friction with this process.
What was the process? What was it?
Somebody would buy Easy IP on a website. Okay, so they'd buy on a website. Then our team would be alerted that they bought. Then they'd be brought into a funnel. Now they're in the funnel, which essentially has email automation that basically says, thanks for joining Easy IP. Please do this action. Please do that action. And then do they do the action? We're not sure. We don't know. And then it was like, oh, join us in our course. Now there's more usernames and passwords. And then it was, oh, here's the customer support portal. There was all that, you're getting lost. The whole point of making this easy IP is to make it easy. And so if it's called Easy IP and there's 27 steps, even 27 steps, not for the consumer, but for us, now you take and you say, now we don't have 1 customer. Now you go 10 and then you go 100 and then you go 1,000. I saw the writing on the wall. And this is why I reached out to you probably back in January, because I knew we got a TEDx that just hit 1 million views on Easy IP. We started to realize we're going to be all over the world talking about Easy IP in the spring. And I said, I'm seeing the writing on the wall and I'm starting to get nervous because a lot of companies are like, oh no, just give us money. Just give us sales. And I'm like, I'm the opposite because I like to care for people. And so I think if 1,000 people buy this thing tomorrow, can the team handle it? So I've always been one of these slow grow, never take investment money, bootstrap it. That's always been my style. And you've even said that you appreciated that. I'm not like one of these guys who's like, let's just spend 500,000 on an app. No. Let's piece it together. And as we get more sales, then we can add more features, more products. So your team has been amazing, but I talked to 2 dudes. One, you were one was the other guy. Here's what the other guy told me. He said, you will spend so much money on an app if you don't know what you want. And he said, you're really going to cut costs if you come to the table with the thinking already thought through. Not that everything was thought through, but even just simple things like what does the home screen look like? And then up at the top, protect my idea. Look at how slick that is. 1 button, boom, 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 boom. And your team took what was in our head and not only made it work. See, here it is, boom. And then I enter my password and then it has a face ID. That's pretty slick. And then it takes you right to all the IP. Up here, it takes you to credits. So that's how many credits I have in the queue. Look at that. Is that cool?
Super cool.
And then orders, and then my ideas. Come on, man. Teammate AI right there. I got to give a shout out to Bill, Magic, Jason, Evan, of course. Who else on your team? I mean, you have a great team.
The team did a great job. I think when the thing that you did, I think, really well was you had a clear understanding of what success was, which is super important. And you knew, like, hey, part of success is that our client experience gets better as we're adding the technology in. Whereas I feel like a lot of times technology is thought of as a way to kind of cut costs or like sort of like get a little bit of froth in the P&L, when in reality you're sacrificing the client experience, you're sacrificing the customer experience. But in your case, what I thought that you did really well was you said, listen, we have a lot that's coming down the pike. We need this to help us grow better, to grow smarter, to be more efficient. But we also need it so that our customer experience, our client experience gets even better throughout the process, which is where I thought you came to the table in the right spot in the first place.
Yeah, man. As a former minister, pastor, I view selling as serving. That's how I define sales and marketing as serving and storytelling. So there were times even, this, Evan, while we were building the app, where I'm like, no, we got to view this 75-year-old tech-phobic person who doesn't even know what they're doing. And that's really how we built it. We built it as the lowest tech person because, if you are at dinner and you do write on a napkin and you're like, oh man, we should do something with this idea. And you're like, yeah, well, let's call my lawyer. Okay, now we got to meet with the lawyer. Okay, let's file a trademark. Okay, $3,000 and a lot of questions and more, and then 14 months to approve it. Like now people aren't creative. Now people are going to say, heck with it. I'm not going to do anything. In other words, what you've done is you've added so much friction. This is why Uber is such a amazing company, or Lyft or Airbnb or whatever. All these companies, what they've done is they've said, look, we're not geniuses, but we're going to take inventions and blend them together. So Uber is taking GPS with social proof reviews, with a payment option, and it's like blending them all into a user and a portal. Like all it's doing is taking ingredients and mixing them. That's what EasyIP is. The genius of EasyIP is that all we're doing is we're taking different pieces. Oh, and then I didn't even share this. Oh my gosh. Then you can this is what the patent also includes. We put that QR code on anything. We're talking business cards, slides, products. And now when people scan that, they go right to your IP portal that then lists your IP and says, here's all Evan's IP. Boom, 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 boom. And then what people say is, I'm not messing with Evan. Like, honestly, the reason why Disney and Verizon and EOS and Strategic Coach, the reason why certain companies get a reputation that you don't want to mess with them is because people know they actually value their IP. But when a company doesn't value their IP, they're kind of like, let's go in as pirates and take everything. It doesn't matter because there's no repercussions. So and I know, you've seen that slide that says 1975, 18% of the S&P 500 was intangible, 17%. 2024, it's between 90 and 96% of all assets in the S&P 500 are intangible or IP. So like the most valuable part of an iPhone is not the parts and pieces. It's all the IP.
As you're thinking about the way that the sort of IP landscape is changing, I think, one of the things that's really, I think, is crucial about what EasyIP is doing is there's so much deepfake that's starting to hit the internet. Yes. And to me, EasyIP seems like the perfect antidote to a lot of that deepfake. And are you thinking about that a lot? How are you thinking about sort of maybe the bad actors with AI, but also now you've got your own AI to help people protect, the stuff that they care about. Are you thinking about what the sort of the tension is between those two things?
Yeah. Global trust is at an all-time low ever in history. Think about it. What we've been able to do is we've been able to give people the ability to have a publishing company, a video studio, a radio station, all in the palm of their hands. So everyone is now a content creator. Anyone can create anything, which means that now, how is there any source of truth? People are saying with videos like, I don't even know if that's Trump. I don't even know if that's Biden. Like, I don't even know what this agenda is. Is this really happening? I don't even know. And so you either drop into this ultimate cynicism where people then just say, forget everything. We're in the matrix. We're in a simulation. Or you start restoring back trust. And one of the ways that you restore back trust is to say, you know what? Actually, that news piece by CNN, it's protected by Easy IP. We can actually scan the story and we can go straight to the blockchain and say, you know what? CNN didn't create that. It's a lie. And like literally there will be fact checkers that could so easily within seconds. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of time. You can go back to their digital wallet and say that came from that source. And if it's not sourced that way, people are actually going to stop just creating fake junk because they're going to be like, why rob a bank when they take away your mask? Like you just basically said, we now know the bad actors. We can spot them in a second. So I believe, that Easy IP is probably one of these technologies that we've created it for X, but then we're going to see Y, Z, like Chipotle, as an example, or like all these things, medical records, diplomas. How do you know that person went to Yale? You don't know. Well, guess what? LinkedIn now has a feature where they will showcase a digital asset on your LinkedIn profile where you can literally click a button and see, no, they actually went to Yale. I just paid for a stranger to do a service with our website, and I had to give him like creator access to our YouTube. And I'm like literally crossing my fingers thinking, I have no idea if this guy's going to like be legit or not. And I did the best I could, but it took me 2 hours to like listen to his reviews and go here and validate and verify. It would have been so much easier just to have a third-party validation that issued Easy IP, and now I can just scan it and be like, yeah, he's legit.
So as we come up on time here, we've covered so much. First of all, what were the basics of Easy IP and of blockchain, and how are they tied together? What's the value proposition here? Second of all, we've covered how are you scaling the company? What's the tech that's helping you scale this company, that's helping you make it so that, which I think is so crucial, that the client experience gets better as the tech becomes more integral. And then now looking at what are the future opportunities, or what are the things that are kind of like way out in the future with AI, with medicine, with tracking supply chains, anything else on blockchain. But I want to kind of bring it to the near term, bring it to the next quarter, the next couple of quarters. What's next?
Within the next 30 days, we're at 2 major events that are our ideal client. So Strategic Coach called CoachCon is having their first ever in Nashville. 300, 400, 500 abundant growth-minded entrepreneurs, which is literally our target market. Probably 50 of the people there we've published. So let's just say 20% of the room we've published. So it's amazing. Like we became platinum sponsors, not so we can promote ourselves, but we literally said, we want to host a book signing. So we're not, pushing product. We're basically saying we're platinum sponsors. We're bringing a red carpet. We're bringing video footage. We're going to have a book signing for all of our authors. But our authors rest really easy because they know that we're the only publisher on the planet who's publishing, protecting, and promoting their IP. Most other publishers just publish. They've missed the other 2 legs. So we have this unique thing. Easy IP actually is a separate company, but it feeds Igniting Souls. So everybody who comes to us now, get this. This is big. We used to say like to our authors, do you want Easy IP? Now we put in our proposals, you're getting Easy IP. because we now sit down, and after anybody writes a book with us, we say that we're going to do what's called an IP harvest. It's a term that's used in the industry where you basically go through the book and we say, Mike Wandler, oh, that's good. You've said that unique. No one else on the planet is doing that. Tell us more about this chart. This sounds fascinating. So we basically harvest all the IP and we say, look, there's 55 examples of IP. You wrote a book that you just thought was a book, but now there's 55 different expressions of IP that literally takes the valuation of your company. And now I tell people all the time, you cannot optimize your IP until you organize your IP. You cannot promote your IP until you protect your IP. So we're basically getting them to organize and protect so that they can optimize and promote. And then we tell Mike, here's 55 examples. Do you want to put these on Easy IP? And of course, they're like, absolutely. Now he's got 55 examples of IP that he can then turn into a course, turn into a mastermind, use with client training, use that barcode for all of his slide decks. Now, literally, he's taking things and his whole company is raising in value. So that's kind of where I see the future. And then we're going to this blockchain London event with 12,000 people. It's one of the biggest in the planet. And I'm going to demo the tech. Like, I have no clue what's going to happen, a lot of times with entrepreneurship. But here's what Teammate AI did for us. They gave us confidence that if 10% of the room, 1,200, say, let's bust open our phones right now. Let's pop in the best idea that we had at the London blockchain. Let's protect it. Our whole company doesn't fold or get crushed because we don't have the tech to scale. And that's what AI and Teammate AI has helped us do.
Well, I really appreciate your being on here. I've had an absolute wonderful time. We've been working on this with you. We've been in it with you. And then you brought up supply chain, and I thought, oh, what a new use case. You brought up medicine. I thought, oh, what a new use case that we could be covering with Easy IP with the tech. So I'm really, really excited about it. I really appreciate your being a guest here today. For everybody who wants to check out Easy IP, head to easyip.today in your browser. That's going to give you everything that you need in order to be able to get started. You can also head directly to the application by going to easyip.app. That's easyip.app. If you want to learn more about Teammate AI, we're on a mission to automate 10 million human hours by 2030. Head to teammateai.com or click the link in the description below. Kary, thanks so much for being here. I had a wonderful half hour.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for all you're doing. I appreciate it.